Hello and welcome to the Collapse Experiment. Have an update for my OKC Boom Boom playlist. Some recent articles have come out about an event that was 30 years ago. Articles are still coming out about McVeigh and what allegedly happened 30 years ago. So the first one that was shared with me from an acquaintance online. So I did not find this on my own, but this was from Zero Hedge. Bush-era swamp creature revealed to be key figure in OKC Boom Boom cover-up. Now, who could that be? I thought it was going to be someone else, but it makes sense as I'm reading the article. This is a quote from Jesse Trentadue. I have not done a video that I can remember on Kenneth Trentadue, Jesse's brother, who was murdered not long after the event. That is how Jesse ended up in this whole situation. That has to be a whole separate video. But he's quoted as saying, as I've always said, the only difference between the KGB and the FBI is that the KGB has never claimed to be a legitimate law enforcement agency. Pretty sweet quote. Readers may know the name John Ashcroft, Attorney General under George W. Bush. Well, good old Ashcroft was at the heart of a high-profile cover-up, the Oklahoma City event. According to attorney Jesse Trentadue, the following comes from a court filing provided to Zero Hedge by Trentadue, attorney to OKC Boom Boom accomplice Terry Nichols. So yeah, he must be the new, or has been, the attorney for Nichols as of lately. For context, and this is summarizing Jesse's story. Jesse is the brother of Kenneth Michael Trentadue, who died in August 1995 while incarcerated at a federal transfer center in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Following the death, the Department of Justice immediately deemed it a self-deletion, denied the medical examiner access to the cell where Kenneth Trentadue was killed, ordered the cell cleaned and painted, and repeatedly asked both the medical examiner and Kenneth Trentadue's family to authorize a cremation of his body. This is before they would have had access or seen it, or yeah. The medical examiner could not legally authorize cremation and the family refused, demanding that Kenneth's body be returned to them. When Trentadue's body was returned to the family, they removed heavy makeup and discovered bruises all over his body from head to foot. Yeah, I believe the bottoms of his feet were bruised, which is a common torture technique. The bruises, cuts, and other wounds depicted an obvious beating and murder. Now for the story. While serving his prison sentence, Nichols attempted to spark an investigation into FBI involvement in the OKC event. He sent a letter stating that he could provide such information to then head of the DOJ, Ashcroft. Ashcroft did not respond to the letter, but immediately forbade the media from speaking to Nichols, which resulted in 60 Minutes canceling a sit-down interview that they had scheduled with Nichols, says Trentadue. Good God, how that would have gone. Shortly thereafter, Nichols said he received a visit from a man presenting an offer from the DOJ to undo Nichols' death sentence if he agreed to 3 conditions. Number 1, take ownership of an anonymous warning the DOJ received saying that the Murrah building was boom-boomed 30 minutes before it actually had happened. So they wanted him to state that he was the one that made that phone call that they could not explain. Kind of reminds you of somebody calling, I don't know, the Chicago Police Department and stating that somebody is going to try to take out JFK like a few weeks before somebody actually took out JFK. And then that person's name who called and made that warning was Lee. Interesting, right? Number 2, implicate Nichols' own brother in the Boom Boom plot. Well, his brother was never brought up on charges or indicted or anything, so interesting. Reveal the location of the keen stick, an explosive used in the event. Nichols mentioned having knowledge of an unused stash in his letter to Ashcroft. The existence of a remaining stash was not known at the time. Bullshit! So yeah, so they wanted him to say what the... and there was the evidence that had fingerprints from Roger Moore, where he was like, hey, Roger Moore gave us, I think it was the blasting caps, to make the damn thing. And he still had the box with Moore's fingerprints on them. And it was something stupid, like 10 years later, the FBI went to Nichols' house, which, yeah, that was thoroughly searched. Good job, guys, because he buried it under the front porch. Again, good job on your search. The existence of the mysterious call was independently corroborated in Stephen Jones' book, Others Unknown, and even covered by ABC News. And this is Richard Booth, who, if you want to know a hell of a lot more than you could ever possibly know about what happened in Oklahoma City, follow Richard Booth. Which I do have to say, I love his new icon, his photo on here, because it's one of the lone gunmen. He does have the original footage of the ABC News article talking about the phone call. It was discovered that the DOJ proxy, Michael Shelby, who visited Nichols, previously worked in Ashcroft's private security detail. Trying to do help to further collaborate this by that this meeting took place by telling Zero Hedge. After the declaration was filed, Shelby called me upset as hell, said that I had just got him bleeping killed. The attorney who brought Shelby in to meet Nichols is Rodney Uphoff, a law professor at the University of Missouri. I called Uphoff and he confirmed the event. It is strange that such an offer, given leniency to an accomplice to one of the most horrific domestic terrorist attacks in U.S. history, would be presented by someone who does not work at the DOJ and stipulate that Nichols take credit for an anonymous tip which he did not make. Because they're trying to close all the gaps. Nichols ultimately did not accept the deal because he did not want to throw his brother under the bus. Fucking A, man. Good job. Good for you. The story, now part of the official record, thanks to Trinidad, serves as an interesting look into the true conspiracies that Ashcroft may have had a hand in. To see the full spectrum of official documents that Jesse Trinidad has fought hard to force the government to release, follow his website in the name of honor, named in honor of his brother, who he believes was murdered by the FBI, which is KennethTrinidad.com. And for a great interview where Trinidad discusses the contents of the article and more, listen to friend of Zero Hedge, Scott Horton, interviewed Jesse just last month. I'm going to have to actually look at that because I want to hear that interview. Now, the other update. Actually, was there another link that I want to send a letter? I wanted to see what this had to do with. No, Zero Hedge, I don't want your awesome looking. Okay, they have. Oh my God. This is the actual letter that Terry Nichols sent to Attorney General John Ashcroft. So, they do have the actual legit letter here that Nichols wrote and sent to him. That's awesome. Now, the other update, ATF informant who blew whistle on OKC Boom Boom event reportedly dies in house fire. Now, this came out April 24th. Come to find out, Carol Howe died, was it January or was it February. We'll find out. Karma, or is somebody covering his tracks? Howe played an essential part in the conspiracy to frame innocent people for the OKC bombing, and I believe that is a quote from Strassmeyer, which... good way to talk about somebody used to put your pee-pee in. Ken Silva, again, a controversial ATF informant who forewarned her handlers about the April 19th, 1995 Oklahoma City event, has reportedly turned up dead 30 years later. The ex-ATF informant Carol Howe, who warned her handlers in early 1995 that neo-Nazi extremists in Oklahoma were planning to attack federal buildings, had vanished in the late 1990s after being acquitted from explosives charges. In the remaining years of her life, she was reportedly living in Sparta, Tennessee under the name Sarah Collins. She died in a house fire on January 6th, according to documentarian John Ronson. So yeah, he is the one who did the Audible podcast series, The Debutante. I've just released a brand new epilogue episode of my Audible show, The Debutante, about the very mysterious Carol Howe. It's because of an extraordinary, dreadful message I received out of the blue in January. So she died back in January. Everything is explained here. So Ronson, who produced a podcast in 2023 about Howe, said he was contacted by a listener earlier this year. Mr. Ronson, I just listened to an interview you did about Carol Howe. I have been listening to everything I can about her because she died Monday in a house fire across the street from me. She was going by the name Sarah Collins, but it has been confirmed that she was Carol Howe. She was a complete recluse. About 4.5 years ago, she went inside her house and never came out, the listener told him. Ronson went to Sparta to find out more about Howe, including whether she did indeed knew about the OKC boom boom before it happened. But of Ronson's podcast paints Howe, much of Ronson's podcast paints Howe as a mentally unstable, unreliable source. According to Ronson, Howe became increasingly paranoid towards the end of her life. She lived like a hoarder and was possibly using fentanyl and other drugs. Hey, until there's proof of that. So, I've never heard the series because Audible is fucking overpriced, and if they had half a brain, they would actually release this on, like, I don't know, CD format or something as an audiobook. You know, because Audible is supposed to be for audio books. However, Ronson did report new information that corroborates Howe's claims of seeing OKC bomber Timothy McVeigh before his attack. Howe's cousin Lucy told Ronson that Carol mentioned McVeigh in the Christmas of 1994. I do have a story that proves Carol knew McVeigh, Lucy told Ronson. The Christmas before, we were all together and my grandmother had passed away. My grandmother's maiden name is McVeigh. So I said I wanted to name my kid X McVeigh, Carol said. I doubt you want to use that name, Lucy said. I said, what? And she said, I don't think you're going to want to use that name, McVeigh. Ronson said he didn't know what to make of Lucy's story, regardless of whether Howe knew McVeigh. The public records show that she definitely warned the ATF about the OKC event. Indeed, the truth about Howe came out after she was arrested in 1997 for allegedly making boom boom threats and having an explosive device at her home. During her trial, Howe's allegations were corroborated by her former ATF handler, Angela Finney Graham. The ATF agent testified that Howe had indeed warned the federal government that people from Elohim City had plans to attack federal buildings in early 1995. Miss Howe told you about Mr. Strassmeyer's threats to blow up federal buildings, didn't he? Said Howe's attorney, Clark Brewster, referring to German national Andreas Karl Strassmeyer. ATF agent Finley Graham responded, yes. And was this before the OKC Boom Boom event? Brewster asked. Again, Agent Finley Graham said yes in response. A jury exonerated Howe of all charges. The former informer went into hiding soon thereafter and lived under an assumed name for the next 20 plus years. 2 years later, Headline USA interviewed Strassmeyer, the man Howe implicated in the event. Strassmeyer had been living at Elohim City in the 90s and is confirmed to have met McVeigh at a gun show in Tulsa before the attack. He says he didn't know McVeigh and that he had nothing to do with the event. You still, possibly, we know you did, own McVeigh's BDUs with his name that he wore in the Iraq War. Strassmeyer, I think you traded a knife for it or some stupid shit. And they were both spotted together at a how to make an explosives training camp. God, what was his name? Jack Oliphant, at his place before the gun show in Tulsa. So you guys knew each other. Strassmeyer, who was never a suspect in the FBI's investigation of the event, said he knew Howe was a federal informant from the moment she stepped inside Elohim City. That didn't stop you from banging that, did it? No. He tried to warn Elohim City spiritual leader Robert Miller, but said Miller's religious beliefs dictated that all of Christ's children were welcome at his property, and that gave Strassmeyer permission to, I was 99% she was an informant when she was there. She was such a dishonest person, and I caught her lying all the time. Strassmeyer said we shouldn't allow her to be here, and they had a little meeting with the elders. Really? Then why was she living with you? But Miller said, we're not doing anything illegal here, so what harm is it for her to be here? I hope you don't regret this situation, and I guess I was right. Strassmeyer further said he thought that Howe and the ATF were targeting him in particular because he was staying in the U.S. illegally. This would have given law enforcement the excuse it needed to raid Elohim City. They were already planning on it. I believe, who was it? Was it the ATF or the FBI? Because they were both looking at freaking raiding the place, and one of them was like, whoa, hold off. No, don't do that. Strassmeyer maintains to this day that Howe is a serial liar who fabricated her claims for attention. Strassmeyer said he fed Howe disinformation on purpose so he could prove she was an informant when she spread his fabrications. Then why were you dipping it? She's making stuff up to give her handler something. Oh, you were handling something too, Strassmeyer. So she could stay employed as a snitch, he said. So what's the most likely thing she'll tell them? She'll talk about assassinating federal agents, blowing up buildings. I mean, that's the oldest trick in the book. He says 30 years later. Headline USA reached out to Strassmeyer upon the news of Howe's death, and he responded with the following message: karma. Or is somebody trying to cover his tracks? Howe played an essential part in the conspiracy to frame innocent people for the OK City bombing. Strassmeyer. Correction, an earlier version of the story incorrectly identified Lucy as Carol Howe's sister. Lucy is her cousin. Okay. So yeah, Carol Howe. The other thing that came up, not in the article, but it was in an episode of No Way Jose podcast, is that she died The day that she died was the 30th anniversary of the day that she told her informant, or her handler, told her handler that they were planning to blow up federal buildings. So 30 years later, on the dot, is when she dies in a house fire. There's also other information about there was a younger guy who had come by the house to, like, I guess, work on her car and do stuff around the house because she didn't ever leave. And she had told him that she was part of the Boston Marathon event that happened with two certain dudes, allegedly. That she had infiltrated that group, and that was why she was in hiding. So whether she was trying to tell him what she had done in the past, but giving false information in order to, like, cover her tracks, like, hey, I used to do this thing, but I'm not going to tell you exactly where I used to do it. That's a possibility. So yeah, she apparently even had like a little nook underneath the house, under the porch or something, that she would smoke her cigarettes so that she wasn't leaving the house. But yeah, moved in 4.5 years ago and apparently just never left after that. Her story, I covered her story previously, so I won't go into that anymore, but yeah. So she's gone. Ashcroft is now being singled out as one of the people who tried to help cover up what really happened at this event. And man, I would really like to know what the hell's going on with Larry Potts right now. Like, did he, because his Wikipedia, like, once he was out of office with the FBI, nothing. Like, this dude, he does not do interviews. He doesn't do these documentaries like the latest one on Netflix, which, in my opinion, is just propaganda. Like, I watched the whole thing. Yeah, there was some footage I'd never seen before, blah, blah, blah. But no, like, after they talked about the axle of the truck, the rear axle. They're like, once we had that part, we knew. If you look it up, you can find it online. The number that is stamped onto the axle, for one, VIN numbers are not stamped on anything. They're etched into a little plate, which is found on 2 to 3 different portions of the car. They kept saying, this is a VIN number, and this is how we tracked it back to this rental shop. And from the rental shop, we were able to get the form with Kling's name on it, who ended up being McVeigh. The axle is the weakest part of the story. They already knew who McVeigh was. They already were tracking him, which is how he got pulled over. But the axle, for one, it's a parts number, and you cannot trace an individual vehicle from a parts number. That part number just tells you what type of vehicle it goes to. So the whole notion that the axle of the truck linked them back to a rental company is complete fabricated bullshit and the worst fucking storytelling ever. The most incompetent FBI agents ever to cover their asses. Like, this is the VIN number. No, that's not, no. So yeah, everything after that point is just them figuring out, how are we going to wrap this up? It's got to be a lone wolf. They can't know the full greater conspiracy because that implicates us. Yeah, PatCon. Good luck with that, explaining that shit. So anyways, that's the updates. Carol Howe has passed away. Strassmeyer is still out there writing his little books on German history that you can find on Amazon. No shit. Look it up. And what's his name? Ashcroft is still free to do whatever the hell he wants. So yeah, hopefully Patel, come on, Cash Patel, do your thing. Go after these motherfuckers, please. Because these crooks, these assholes, and I want to see Nichols out of prison. Honestly, I do. I want to see him out of prison. I want to hear what he has to say. And maybe we can finally get some closure as to what the fuck really happened on April 19th, 1995. Because this bullshit story is complete bullshit. This is why we don't trust you motherfuckers. Keep on typing.